With regards to the 6% of income for utility payments, Chairman Christian, can you elaborate on that a little more? How many people is that going to be? How many households is that going to be? And who's doing the calculation of 6%?
Okay. That's a great question. So the 6% threshold was established some years ago prior to my joining the commission. And it was established at a time when it was recognized that our efforts to achieve safe, reliable, just, and reasonable rates did not necessarily always translate to affordable. So the commission set for itself a target of something called an energy burden, where you effectively look at a person's income and you say that 6% of that income should be dedicated towards energy. No more than 6% of that income should go towards energy. Research for years suggests that anything above that creates undue pressure on families, and as you can imagine, low-income New Yorkers in many cases pay.
No, I'm not asking about the rationale for doing it. I'm asking about who's determining that 6%, based on what, and how many households in New York State does that impact?
Okay, so the 6% was determined through commission action. We set that number, we set that rate. In terms of the number of households, I believe...
No, who determines the income, and that whether 6% of their household income is
oh, I see.
subject to this subsidy?
Pilot, gotcha, right. So as we develop the pilot, we'll have a better understanding of how we will identify these things. One of the lessons learned through developing the arrears program, which helped reduce the past due bills on many New Yorkers, particularly low-income New Yorkers and those making less than $75,000. We worked very closely with our fellow state agencies in determining, developing, and identifying processes to collect information where we could identify those who actually have the need. So,
how many households in the state do you expect that to impact?
I believe the number is upwards of 500,000. I can get you a more precise number. I don't remember offhand exactly what that number would be.
You know, affordability is a major concern of mine and a lot of my colleagues going forward with this climate plan. And we're not opposed to the initiatives moving towards cleaner, greener, renewable energy. We're concerned about the feasibility and the pace of it and how much it's going to cost. Can you tell us today how much it's going to cost ratepayers, how much it's going to cost businesses, how much the cost is going to be passed on to everyday New Yorkers through higher costs of goods resulting from these extra charges? I mean, what's the overall cost going to be to the average New Yorker of this whole plan?
Well, President Harris mentioned earlier a $275 billion number overall. That is the total cost. Exactly how that is going to be parsed out is yet to be determined. As mentioned earlier, the Cap and Invest plan, I believe, is going to be one of the many vehicles used to offset and pay some of those costs. And as Commissioner Sagos mentioned, that's in development as well. Up until now, the majority of the costs for all climate efforts have been borne by ratepayers. That upstate New York's grid is roughly 90% renewable energy. Clean energy is largely because of ratepayers. And if we continue, that will be the case going forward. But this cap and invest
you have no
option,
estimate of what it's going to cost New Yorkers?
Excuse me?
You don't have any idea how you can tell an average family in New York State what the ultimate impact of this is going to be? There's really been no cost-benefit analysis throughout this whole process.
Well, I respectfully disagree, sir. In the climate scoping plan, a cost-benefit analysis has been put forward. Part of it is, I think, a disconnect in how I feel appropriate responding to your question. We can talk about things in the perspective of rate impacts to customers. And as we do each order, we have impacts documented on what that would be in terms of individual rates.
What's the impact of the ratepayer from the Clean Path transmission line?
I do not have that information handy at this moment.
Does anybody know that?
Some of that information, I believe, was in the filing, and we can definitely go over that with you at another time.
Is that information available, what's going to cost the ratepayer for the Champlain-Hudson line?
Similarly, yes.